Kevin Stefanski is under the kind of scrutiny that rarely comes from inside the house. But Brown's insiders aren't just hinting. They're openly questioning whether his leadership is doing more harm than good. After the loss of the Bears, the spotlight has moved from Shedeur Sanders' mistakes to Stefanski's decisions. The flawed play calling, the chaotic execution, and the complete lack of protection that left Sanders fighting uphill from the first snap. This kind of internal reckoning signals a seismic narrative shift. For years, young quarterbacks have taken a fall while the system around them escaped blame. But now,
if you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Cleveland voices are flipping that script, arguing that talent can't grow in dysfunction. Sanders' performance, rather than being a warning sign, is fast becoming a symbol of how bad leadership stifles potential. You watched Shedeur Sanders walk off the field after that brutal game against the Bears, and the internet already had the memes locked and loaded. Rookie QB, bad stat line, team loss, case closed, right? Not so fast. Because just days later, something shifted. The insiders, Browns connected analysts, beat reporters, and local media figures started talking. And what they said peeled back a whole new layer on what really went wrong. Instead of throwing Shedeur under the bus, they defended him, loudly. They pointed to everything around him that broke down, the penalties, the field position, the coaching, the chaos. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about a rookie quarterback having a bad day. It was about a dysfunctional system setting him up to fail. And that's when the conversation took a sharp turn toward the sidelines. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, was no longer a background character in this narrative. His decisions, or lack thereof, were being dragged into the spotlight. The play calling, the clock management, the general atmosphere confusion. Insiders didn't just hint. They questioned outright whether Stefanski should even keep his job. That's how far the frustration had reached. The Bears game didn't just expose Sanders' rookie status. It exposed a team that looked fundamentally broken. The offensive line offered zero protection. The special teams gave away field position like it was on clearance. There were penalties at the worst times imaginable. And through it all, Sanders was just trying. Some insiders were blunt. They said Sanders was in survival mode, not quarterback mode. He was never given a clean pocket. He was never given a manageable down and distance. He was never even given a shot to get comfortable. So how exactly are you supposed to fairly evaluate a rookie when his entire environment is working against him? They emphasize how quick we are to reduce a performance down to stats. Box scores, highlight reels, interception counts. But when you dig into the circumstances, when you actually watch the film and look at the patterns, it's clear that the mistakes weren't just his. They were organizational. What's worse, these weren't new problems. The same complaints about poor planning, bad penalties, and no in-game adjustments had been circling the Browns for months. This wasn't one bad game. This was a recurring issue. Sanders just happened to be the one holding the bag this time. And people finally started saying out loud. So while the national narrative stayed stuck on rookie QB implodes, those closest to the team painted a very different picture. One where Shedeur's effort and toughness actually stood out. One where the coaching staff, not the player, should be answering for the disaster. Multiple insiders went out of their way to point out how Sanders never quit on a play, how he kept pushing, kept throwing, even when the odds were stacked against him. One analyst said, "The kid took a beating and kept coming back for more. That says something." And it does. Because when everything's collapsing around you, effort is the only thing you can control. And Shedeur controlled that. He competed. He made throws under pressure. He kept trying to elevate a team that clearly wasn't ready to support him. That spotlight on Stefanski, it only got hotter. With insiders putting his job security in question, the tone shifted from disappointment to accountability. One commentator called it unacceptable that a rookie quarterback is forced to carry the weight of organizational failure. Another said the team looked rudderless. This wasn't just venting. It was a warning shot. A signal that the people who usually toe the company line were fed up. The old excuses Injuries, new systems, growing pains weren't cutting it anymore. Not when the same structural problems kept dragging the team down, week after week. You saw it during the Bears game. The Browns came out flat. They were undisciplined. They looked like a team without a plan. And through it all, Sanders kept scrambling, both literally and figuratively, try and make something out of nothing. He wasn't just playing against the Bears. He was playing against the Browns' own dysfunction. And insiders noticed. They started talking about how rookie evaluations don't mean much without context. You can't fairly judge a quarterback if he's being set up to fail every time he steps on the field. Talent can't shine through chaos. And that's what Shedeur was up against. Pure, unfiltered chaos. The post-game discourse was different this time. The blame didn't go straight to the quarterback. Instead, people asked, where was the protection? Where were the adjustments? Why were the Browns constantly pinned deep in their own territory? The film didn't lie. The answers weren't flattering. When you watched the sidelines, you didn't see a team regrouping. You saw confusion, players out of sync, coaches scrambling. There was no urgency, no fire, just a rookie getting beat up while the rest of the operation crumbled around him. Some of the most vocal insiders even praised Shedeur's leadership through the mess. They said he kept talking to his teammates, kept trying to reset the energy, kept looking for solutions, even when none were coming from the sideline. That doesn't show up on stat sheets, but it matters. And in a moment where the easy thing would have been to write him off, they did the opposite. They said he showed poise, grit, accountability. Not perfection, but progress. Because what more can you ask from a rookie in hostile conditions? And then came the Stefanski questions. Is this the coach to develop a rookie quarterback? Is this the system that can foster growth? If the answer is no, and insiders were heavily implying that it is, then what's the long-term plan here? How many more games do you let this repeat before making a change? The takeaway wasn't subtle. You can't talk about building for the future if your foundation is cracked. You can't develop talent in a system that isn't functioning. And right now, the Brown system looks more like a liability than a launch pad. One insider laid it out bluntly. You don't evaluate a quarterback in a vacuum. And that's what's finally starting to hit home. It's not just about what Shedeur did. It's about what he had to work with. A playbook that looked scared. Blocking that collapsed in seconds. Repeated penalties that made every drive harder than it needed to be. None of this absolves Sanders of his own mistakes. He missed throws, no question, but it puts those mistakes in context. The kid wasn't just learning on the job. He was dodging landmines the whole way. And in that kind of storm, no rookie is going to look polished. Meanwhile, Stefanski's name kept coming up like a broken record. Why is the offensive scheme so rigid? Why can't this coaching staff make in-game changes when a plan clearly isn't working? Why do they look surprised every time adversity hits? Like they didn't see it coming. And the question that's starting to echo loudest, if this is how they handle a rookie QB, what does that say about their ability to develop talent at all? Because this wasn't development, it was damage control with no control in sight. You think back to how the team hyped up Sanders in the preseason. All the optimism, the praise for his composure, his arm talent, his football IQ, that version of Shedeur didn't disappear. He just got buried under the wreckage of a broken game plan. The insiders made it clear. The problems didn't start with Sanders, and they won't end with him either. Until the Browns fix the larger dysfunction, coaching, communication, execution, no quarterback, rookie or not, is going to thrive here. It's just not possible. That Bears game became the case study. A perfect storm of bad football. Penalties kill momentum. Field position flipped against them repeatedly. Play calls were timid when they should have been bold, and reckless when they should have been smart. Stefanski looked like a coach trying to win while coaching not to lose, and failing at both. And in the middle of it all, there was Sanders, taking hits, trying to improvise, getting almost no help from the people paid to put him in a position to succeed. This wasn't a learning opportunity. It was a mess, and Shedeur was just trying to survive it. One analyst described the game as throwing a rookie into a hurricane and then blaming him for getting wet. That's the level of absurdity we're talking about. You don't need to be a QB coach to see that Sanders was up against more than just the opposing defense. The Bears didn't just beat the Browns, they exposed them. And now, with insiders talking openly, the blame is being spread around more fairly. It's no longer all on the quarterback. It's about leadership, game prep, discipline, situational awareness, things Shedeur can't control. Post-game, Stefanski tried to deflect. He talked about execution, about needing to be better, the usual cliches. But the insiders weren't buying it anymore. They've heard those lines before, and they know what they really mean. There's no plan, no accountability, just recycled excuses. One local beat writer said, "It's not that the Browns lost, it's how they looked doing it, like they weren't even prepared." That stings, because preparation, that's on the coaching staff. And this staff looked like they walked into the game with no backup plan. Shedeur, on the other hand, looked like he was doing everything he could, rolling out, extending plays, taking hits and popping back up. He made mistakes, but he also made plays, throws that showed real talent. It wasn't consistent, but it was there, buried under the mess. And that's what the insiders are holding on to. Not just the bad, but the flashes of good. The toughness, the refusal to quit, the signs that, if given a real shot, Sanders could grow into something. But that growth requires support, and right now, the Browns aren't offering that. There's even talk that Stefanski's shaky performance could finally put pressure on GM Andrew Berry. Because if the coaching staff is failing this loudly, at what point does the front office step in? Or take responsibility? You can't build a franchise around young talent if your system is eating that talent alive. And no matter how many buzzwords the Browns throw out, development, culture, accountability, the insiders are making it clear. None of that means anything if you can't protect your quarterback or call a competent game. The clock's ticking, and people are noticing. Some of the strongest words came from voices who usually play it safe. They said the situation wasn't just unfair, it was toxic, that putting a rookie in this kind of environment damages more than just the stat line. It damages confidence, growth, momentum, and yet Sanders is still standing. That alone is telling. He didn't fold. He didn't lash out. He answered questions. He owned his mistakes. But he also didn't throw anyone under the bus. That kind of maturity isn't common, especially when you're getting blamed for things you didn't cause. Stefanski, meanwhile, is running out of places to hide. When the insiders stop pointing fingers at the quarterback and start looking at the coaching booth, you know the narrative's turning. The old protections are gone. The leash is shorter. And it all started with that Bears game. Not because it was the worst loss of the season, but because it exposed a bigger truth, that this team, under this leadership, isn't giving its players a fair shot. And until that changes, the Browns are stuck in neutral. Kevin Stefanski, in Browns versus Bears recent match, you didn't have to be an expert to see it. From the first snap, the game felt off. The Browns' offense looked confused. The communication on the sideline was tense. And Stefanski, he had that look, like he was reacting instead of leading. No rhythm, no identity, no adjustment. Every drive was a struggle. The Bears' defense didn't have to do much. It just had to stay disciplined while the Browns imploded on their own, holding penalties, wasted timeouts, wasted opportunities, all under Stefanski's watch. And in the middle of that, Sanders kept pushing. You could see it in his body language. He wasn't playing scared. He wasn't folding. He was frustrated, but not defeated. He kept slinging it when he could, kept running for first downs when nobody was open, kept trying a little something out of nothing. One insider said, it wasn't a good performance, but it was a revealing one. That's the perfect way to frame it. Because when you put a guy through that much adversity and he keeps showing up, that says a lot more than stats ever could. If you strung together every offensive snap Sanders took, it would look like a highlight reel of everything not to do to a rookie quarterback. No protection. No clean pockets. Almost every play. The defense was already in his face before the route could develop. And still somehow, he made a few throws that made people pause. Tight windows. Off platform. Under pressure. Not consistently. But it was there. the potential, the instinct, the flashes that should excite you if you're paying attention, which is why these insiders are demanding context. That's the new theme now, context. Stefanski's system didn't give Sanders that. And when insiders started breaking down game tape, they weren't just disappointed. They were angry. Angry that a team this deep into the season looked this unprepared. Angry that the coach who supposed to guide a young quarterback keeps getting outcoached week after week. Angry that the franchise keeps expecting miracles from rookies, while giving them nothing but chaos to work with. This wasn't just failure, it was negligence. And through all of it, Sanders stayed composed. He didn't get snarky in interviews. He didn't call out teammates. He stuck to responsibility. I have to play better. That's what he said. Not, we were unprepared. Not, I was let down. Just ownership. It's the kind of quote that makes insiders nod in respect and shake their heads at the situation, because the guy taking all the heat is also the only one showing any leadership. Meanwhile, the people who should be held accountable are dodging the blame. Stefanski's post-game media availability didn't help his case. The buzzwords were back. Execution, situational football, need to be better, blah, blah, blah. But there was no fire, no real answers, no admission of a bad plan, and certainly no protection for his rookie QB. He left Shedeur out there to face the music while offering nothing new himself. One insider tweeted, "You can't coach scared and expect rookies to be fearless." That quote hit hard, because it summed up everything wrong with the current leadership. When Sanders sat on the bench between drives, the camera caught it all. He wasn't being consoled. He wasn't getting detailed breakdowns from his position coach. There wasn't a collaborative vibe on that sideline, just silence and frustration. And that silence says a lot. It says, we don't know what to do. It says, figure out on your own. And when that's what your rookie QB is dealing with, you're not building a quarterback. You're isolating one. The insiders have been circling Stefanski for a while now, but this game turned whispers into open fire. Some are calling this the beginning of the end, not because of the loss, but because of what revealed, a coach running out of ideas and a locker room slowly running out of faith. It's not just a playbook. It's the culture. And when you have media members who use it to defend you now questioning your leadership style, you're in real trouble. Especially when you've got a rookie QB taking hits that should be yours. In the fourth quarter, it was more the same. Sanders still fighting, still absorbing pressure, still trying to manufacture offense with nothing but effort and instinct. The numbers weren't pretty, but the film was honest. This wasn't a guy choking under pressure. This was a guy playing against a stacked deck. And now, the insiders are trying to flip the narrative, not to make excuses, but to offer clarity. They're saying, if you want to talk about Sanders' development, start by talking about the people responsible for it, because right now, that's where the biggest problems are. The photos from the game tell a story too. Stefanski, arms crossed, headset on, staring blankly at the field. That image, that's how this team feels right now, lost in real time. No spark, no plan, just a coach waiting for something to work while everything crumbles. And Sanders, walking back to the huddle again and again, carrying not just the offense, but the burden of being the scapegoat. It's not fair. It's not productive. And unless something changes fast, it's going to... So now we're here, with fans split, media voices raising red flags, and a rookie quarterback caught in the middle of a mess he didn't create. The insiders aren't asking for a participation trophy. They're not pretending Shedeur Sanders played like a star. What they're asking for is honesty, context, accountability that reaches higher than the depth chart. Because blaming Sanders alone is lazy. It's easy, and frankly, it's outdated. If you're still pointing fingers at the rookie without talking about the penalties, the play calling, the lack of structure, then you're missing the whole point. And that's exactly what these insiders have started saying out loud. Kevin Stefanski can't hide behind rookie growing pains anymore. Not when insiders are calling out the system as the real problem. This game didn't expose Shedeur. It exposed the Browns. The planning, the execution, the lack of urgency when things went south. And when a rookie is more composed than his coach, that's not a quarterback issue. That's a leadership problem. It's not just about wins and losses anymore. It's about whether this staff has what it takes to develop the talent they've been given, or they're going to keep running it into the ground. Every snap Sanders took in that game told a story. One where every inch had to be earned. One where he never got to breathe, never had a clean setup, never got to show what he could actually do in a stable environment. And yet, he didn't tap out. That's what the insiders are holding on to. Not false hope, but real toughness. The kind of mental makeup that doesn't crack, even when the system does. And if the Browns are serious about the future, that's what they need to protect. Because resilience like that, you don't get that twice. It's no longer about one bad Sunday. This is bigger. The insiders have drawn the line. Either fix the structure or stop pretending you're building something. You can't preach development and then drop a rookie into the deep end with no life jacket. That's not development. That's damage. The conversation has shifted. It's not, is Shedeur Sanders good enough? It's, is the environment around him even remotely functional? And the longer that answer stays no, the worse this gets. For the team, for the fans, and for the kid who's still showing up, still standing tall, still trying to make it work. And Sanders never looked defeated. He looked tired, sure. Frustrated, definitely. But not broken. He talked about the work, about fixing mistakes, about staying focused. He took the high road. He stayed accountable. And he didn't throw anyone under the bus. That kind of poise doesn't show up on stat sheets. But it says everything about who this guy is, and who he might become if the team around him figures it out. The insiders have said their piece. Now it's on the Browns to decide what they're going to do with it. If you're tired of the same empty narratives, hit that like button. Share this with someone who still thinks box scores tell the whole story. Drop a comment with your thoughts, especially if you're ready to talk about what's really holding this team back. And if you're here for more unfiltered truth about the league's most chaotic moments, don't forget to subscribe. It's only getting messier from here.